Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to a not Cool's reviews, but maybe like cool celebration, holiday celebration. Since it is Christmas time, we thought we would take a look at some Christmas-related films. And I think today we picked a good amount of just Christmas classic movies. Nothing too obscure, not like when we did Bloodbeat or anything like that earlier in the month. But all movies that you guys probably recognize, hopefully at least seen once. And yeah, we got a couple of us to talk about them. You see Sam up there; he is driving, so when he's able to talk, he will let us know. And then we also got Brendan. Brendan, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Quick update: did our cutouts of David and I make it to the Hayes Mall for your guys' craft show?
Yes, they did. They're up and proud. They're hanging on to some bags right now.
And see, this is what Christmas is all about: sending your friends cutouts of yourself. Sam is not for that. Look at him; he's saying no. Don't send your friends cutouts. Yeah, so we watched 6 movies. Of these 6, Brendan, were any of these your first time watching them?
2 of them. Love Actually and Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, it was my first time watching Love Actually as well. At some point, maybe we'll do a deep dive on each of these movies, since this more be kind of just like our thoughts. Yeah, that was my first time watching that one. I think that was the only one. I will say Christmas Vacation, I have seen a few other times. It did come in my Blu-ray Essential Holiday Pack, but it's not one I watched a whole lot. So I definitely give it a rewatch. Oh, you know what? And first time watching the A Christmas Carol, the George C. Scott version. Sam, you had a first time watch, right?
Yes, it was my first time watching Love Actually.
Whoa. We have a wild Grayson in the house.
What's going on, guys?
Well, the good news, Grayson, in the spirit of the holidays, we realized you do send your friends cutouts of yourselves. Brendan did receive the one of me to place in the Hayes Mall, so it's a good day today.
The ominous or
necklace on it, and standing by some bags that say I'd rather watch my dog and watch serial killers than be around people.
So, Grayson, was this your first time watching any of these films we are going to talk about today?
No, I've seen most of these before. I think the only one that I haven't seen before is, I'm just getting everything pulled up here from the list. So, Love Actually, Charlie Brown Christmas Special, the George C. Scott one, and then are the only ones that I have not seen before this, but I've seen everything else. So,
okay. Yeah, so we got a couple of us first time viewing some of these movies. I think a good majority are kind of classics in a sense, so I feel like at least the viewers hopefully have an idea. Like we said, to kick it off, it's not going to be a super deep dive on any of them. It's more going to be a talk about each one. And then, if you guys want, let us know in the comments below, and we'll come back to a deep dive on each one. Grayson, out of any of the ones that you watched the first time, did any of them surprise you? Like, wow, that was actually a pretty good movie.
the Merry Christmas Charlie Brown one was definitely even though I didn't celebrate Christmas growing up, it was definitely a very heartfelt, nice, sweet little special. You could feel the sentimentality and just the, I don't know, it was just a cute little special. I kind of liked it.
Brendan, what about you? I know 2 of these were your first time viewings. Did either of them surprise you?
Neither of them really surprised me. I've heard of Christmas Vacation, but I never knew what it was about.
I will say a good chunk of Christmas Vacation is about just getting the lights to work on the house. And if anything, some of these movies, you see little Easter eggs in, especially holiday time. The Charlie Brown Christmas tree is something people will see. The leg lamp from A Christmas Story is another thing you will see. And from A Christmas Vacation, the Griswold Blackhawks jersey is something, even not during Christmas time, you'll usually see out and about. Maybe it's just me because I've been to lots of Blackhawks games, but I can confirm they are out there. I've seen them with my own eyes. Sam, it was your first time watching Love Actually. Did it surprise you?
I mean, not really.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The two I watched for the first time were the George C. Scott one and then Love Actually. And I think what surprised me is having watched them back to back, just the vastly different genres that a Christmas movie can be. Because, I mean, we've seen different versions of A Christmas Carol. I think most recently there's that animated Jim Carrey one. But I think at times you kind of forget that some of these older Christmas stories are kind of dark and spooky and almost fit better with Halloween time. And then you compare that, or contrast that, I should say, with, Love Actually, which is a very kind of upbeat one, like a couple of these. But, it's funny how many different genres the Christmas ones can go. It's not all myths. It's not all, happy-go-lucky, that kind of stuff. Grayson, let's start with the Charlie Brown Christmas special. Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown. What were your thoughts on that bad boy?
Just as I said, I thought it was a cute little special. I mean, it's pretty much like bog standard for a lot of stuff that came out in the 60s. Or I don't even remember what decade it came out, but it's, it's nothing special, or I shouldn't say it's nothing special, but it's definitely not changing the formula any. It's very much like just an ode to childhood and Christmas and just that overall sense of just the holidays that most holiday specials try to kind of encapsulate. So nothing really like revolutionary, but it was a nice little special.
Yeah, it came out, looks like 1965. Obviously, this is a television special. And of all of these, if you want something very quick to sit down and watch, it's only 25 minutes. So it's not going to be down for too long. You can actually probably get a couple Christmas things in. So that's why I think we started with this one today. First, Brendan, what are your thoughts on Christmas, A Charlie Brown Christmas?
I think it was a good, heartfelt Christmas movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I wasn't really able to find it recently, so I'm just going off memory of what I do remember of it. So,
yeah, see, that's the bad thing. That is one thing I did want to bring up regarding this one. Luckily, I have it because I have an unhealthy amount of Blu-rays and DVDs in my collection. But for anyone that was looking to stream it, it was only available to stream on Apple Plus. Yeah, I think it was July or December 14th. Where you didn't even have to be signed up, but at least they would let you watch that. But starting again on December 15th, it would be back to you had to subscribe to Apple Plus. So that's kind of the bummer of the streaming world we live in, is it kind of paywalls people from being able to watch just normal movies. And this is one that used to be all over the TVs, For any viewers, I know we got quite a bit that watch us outside the United States, but here in America, there's like the 25 Days of Christmas where they do like Christmas movies every day. And this was kind of like a staple for a very long time. And yeah, as of late, because of who owns the rights, it's just not a very well known one, even though it's in the public zeitgeist. So, Sam, what are your thoughts on Charlie Brown Christmas?
I mean, I definitely enjoyed it because, like, I watched it a couple of times when I was younger, and it was just on TV. So it definitely kind of holds a little special place for me, at least.
Yeah, I would say for myself as well. It's just one that I definitely remember being on TV. It's a fun little show you can watch with the whole family. Nothing obviously too outrageous or anything like that. Just a nice kind of wholesome 25-minute, pretty short Christmas movie that's pretty iconic, if anything, for the Christmas tree that I know a lot of people have now. Because of this movie, they have the Charlie Brown Christmas. Grayson, what would you rate and recommend this one?
Honestly, 7.5 out of 10. Kind of as you said, a nice little short, to kind of put on in the background, gets those that just kind of gets you in the holiday spirit, kind of gets you back in the nostalgia, especially if, as you brought up, at least for our generation, maybe a little younger, that grew up with this just being on TV all the time, definitely gets you in the holiday spirit. So it's always a good way to kind of kick off the season and get into that kind of mood. So,
Brendan, what about yourself?
I would agree. I think 7.5 out of 10 is a good rating out of it.
Yeah, I'll go next. I think pretty much all of these are pretty solid ones that we picked. Luckily, there's a large catalog of Christmas movies, so we can go through a lot of kind of classic ones before we end up in some of those trashier, like Blood Beat type movies. But this one, especially if you have kids or if you grew up on it, or you remember your parents, grandparents showing you this, you're gonna have a fun time. Unfortunately, like I said, streaming is going to hamper you watching it. But if you go to a Barnes and Noble, believe they are still selling them on Blu-ray and DVD, so you can grab a copy there. And yeah, we'll give it a solid 7.5 as well. Nice little appetizer, I suppose, if you want to call it that, for our Christmas kickoff. Sam, what about you?
Yeah, if you're able to watch it, I do recommend it, and I would probably give it an 8.
Yeah, see, off to a good start. Grayson, what about Elf? Elf is another one with Will Ferrell. It's a newer one, definitely a lot newer than A Charlie Brown Christmas, but has quickly gotten into that Christmas pantheon of movies. What are your thoughts with that one?
I haven't seen this movie in a long time. I saw this when it first came out back in the day, but obviously a classic. It is definitely a good, John Favreau is just a really good movie maker and a good storyteller. The way the movie was made, the story that he tells with it, it's really well done, and I feel like it is the words that I'm trying to look for here, I guess, are pretty much just it is a different take on trying to get family close together with the story that he's trying to tell. So I thought overall it belongs as a all-time great on the list of top greatest Christmas movies.
Brendan, what are your thoughts with Elf?
I think it's a good movie. My girlfriend and I rewatched it. She was kind of in the mood for it, and since it was on our list, why not? I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I think it was a good movie. Probably another 7.5 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah, see, this is one for me that I didn't really have to watch again to do the review, because I watch it every year. It's my favorite Christmas movie as Elf. I just really enjoy it. It does have something to do with the scene where they recreate the famed Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot footage, but use Buddy the Elf instead. Maybe that whole little scene of the news, people being like elves in Central Park. But yeah, it's kind of fun. It combines claymation in the beginning and kind of gives you kind of those kind of classic Christmas characters with the snowman, and then like Buddy the Elf, his costume kind of comes from that time period, like kind of inspired by those outfits. And it's funny, it has some wholesome moments, and I think it's just a kind of fun holiday movie. Sam?
Elf is definitely a really good movie. Has lots of a good Christmas movie. I definitely recommend it. Would give it probably a 9.5 out of 10.
Grayson, what would you rate and recommend this one?
Yeah, I'd rate this probably an 8 out of 10. Will Ferrell, funny as ever. The movie's really well done, as brought out already. But yeah, I'd recommend it. It definitely is just, I mean, even if it's like not the holiday season, it is still just a good movie to put on in the background. Obviously, if it's more with just the aesthetic, but it's still funny enough to enjoy outside of season. So I would say, yeah, no matter when, it's a pretty good time to watch that movie.
Now, we were talking about doing foods that we've seen in movies. Are you up for trying the spaghetti with syrup on it?
As long as you got a doctor on standby, I'm all for it, buddy.
All right, see, there's a new series we'll try. Brendan, what about yourself?
Sure. Try noodles with syrup.
Yeah, I'd probably give this a solid like 8.5, 8.8 out of 10. Like I said, I think it's my favorite Christmas film. A lot of them kind of just fall in line. I mean, there's some classics that maybe next year we'll kind of do a part two of this, but it's my favorite one, and I just really enjoy it. There's, like I said, comedy, and there's some heartfelt like family stuff. You get a lot of kind of like cameos from big name actors. I know Peter Dinklage plays a early role for him in here. With what, and Farrell's just doing very good. This was kind of his same time he kind of did what is it, Stranger Than Fiction. So kind of just a little bit different roles than we came to know him by later on. So I think it's a solid pick. Brendan, we'll kick this one off to you. A Christmas Vacation. It was your first time watching it. What were your initial thoughts?
Boring.
Whoa. That's a bold take there, Brendan. Wow.
It took me 2 days to get through it.
Brendan is much more of a fan of National Lampoon's Vegas Vacation than Christmas Vacation.
Probably would be, yeah. In fact, I haven't seen that one, so.
Well, see, Brendan, now you know there's a whole series of National Lampoon movies you can go watch.
It wasn't terrible. Like I said earlier, I didn't know what to expect. So I just, yeah, it's not quite my speed of movie, so.
Hey, and that's perfectly fine. That's why we have a lot of different people coming on for these movie things, so we can get a different viewpoint from everybody. Grayson, what are your thoughts on National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation?
I didn't see this movie till like my early 20s, but when I did first see it, even today, it's probably one of my staples on just to put on, even no matter what time of year it is, just because it's a funny movie. It really did kind of just encapsulate just the stress and the just it was a slice of life type of movie where it's just the family has to deal with the drama, and that's all it is. And it's just the little tidbits and the funny just outbursts of all that was what I enjoyed. I mean, we all can point to some of those, relatives or situations that we can all relate to, from being in American society. So it's something that I've always enjoyed.
Yeah. So now that I brought up the other National Lampoon's ones, we'll have to do a look at the series and then try to determine which one is our favorite. This one's definitely a classic. You see Clark's jersey, like I said earlier, especially when you go to Blackhawks games, which is something I've done a lot. So I always see the 00s. And like Grayson said, I think it does really, for a kind of comedy movie, encapsulate the feeling of trying to get everything ready. And of course, something always goes wrong, as well as kind of like, when you're trying to provide for a family, like there are extra stresses on you to provide for that. So it does have that. And then, of course, it sprinkles it in with comedy. Does it all hold up all these years later? I think for the most part, it's not too outdated. I will say we should definitely try to figure out how to go that fast on a sled, though. That would be fun. Hey, Grayson, any good sledding places we can go up there?
I mean, you betcha, buddy. But one thing I do want to mention before we move on to anything else is just the last basically just tirade that Clark has. Just we're gonna be the happiest bunch of assholes. This side of the I forget the last part of it, but that entire tirade is something that cracks me up every time. And it's the epitome of just trying to get everything to be perfect and just get everything just done, even though you don't really want to do it and all that. Just yeah. So I feel like it's definitely a classic for a reason.
Yeah, no, I agree. And before we started this, I was talking to Brennan, and I was like, it's kind of funny because a good chunk of that movie is legit just him trying to get the Christmas lights to work, and like everyone else either helping or hindering the lights coming on. And of course, you kind of get it sprinkled in with the neighbors, who are just like very very done with all his antics. But yeah, it's a Christmas classic for a reason. Um, like I said, it comes in the essential holiday kit with A Christmas Story. You got The Christmas Vacation, you got Elf and Polar Express. So yeah, I think for a reason it's there, and yeah, I think it'd be kind of fun at some point to look at the whole series of National Lampoon's movies and figure out which one's our favorite. Brendan, what are your thoughts on rating and recommendation?
We'll say 6.5, just because it's not the worst movie I've ever watched. But like I said, it wasn't my speed and my thing. Should judge it for yourself. So I mean, I would recommend it. I didn't really look at it from the point of view that you guys have pointed out. So I didn't see it like you guys saw it. So yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the good thing about being able to rewatch movies and talk to people is you get a little Easter eggs or maybe viewpoints so you can go back later and watch it. Good thing is you did say it's better than Madam Web, so I mean that is a good rating there. Grayson, what's your rating and recommendation for A Christmas Vacation?
Just even with what Brendan brought out, it kind of depends on how you go into the movie. But if you haven't ever seen this before, it's definitely a capsule of the stress of having to deal with the holidays. Even if you haven't really had like people over for the holidays, it could just apply to any sort of like, get together function, having to deal with family you don't want to deal with, or any of that extra, little facets of just having to get stuff, together, and just the trifles of having to be in middle America and dealing with those stresses and stuff like that. So it's something that definitely, if you go into it, you can either love it or you hate it, or it's just not up to your speed. Or I shouldn't say up to your speed, but just not your cup of tea. But yeah, I like it, so I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a solid 7.7. It's better, obviously, than the Charlie Brown one, but it's definitely a different audience it's going for. It's a pretty solid take, I would say. And yeah, it's, if you know the National Lampoon's movies, I think you kind of know sort of what you're getting. And it's weird because if you go into it thinking it's going to be a comedy, it's vastly not that comedy. It does have a lot different meanings it's trying to showcase. And I think we talked about this when we were talking about like Meet the Parents, about just putting a movie together that kind of shows the stresses of going or hosting one of these big holiday events. And I think this one doesn't, so pretty solid take there. Grayson, a George C. Scott Christmas Carol, this made for TV take on the holiday tradition.
You can feel the fact that it's made for TV. Honestly, I barely remember this one. It wasn't really like something that stuck out to me very much, but I think George C. Scott did a good job as Ebenezer Scrooge, but it's weird to see him as a British character in a British story being, that character. But overall, for the time period, I thought it was really well done. It is pretty fair, from what I, remember, it's pretty faithful to the story. So,
Sam, you're back on, so give us your thoughts and then your rating on A Christmas Vacation.
I liked Christmas Vacation. I thought it was pretty good. Well, interesting. I mean, they're all interesting. Any Christmas story is, I don't know, they're all unique and different in their own ways, but it's still definitely a decent one. I mean, there's some that we'll probably get to that aren't really Christmas stories, but are considered Christmas stories. So Christmas stories are ones that are all over the place. But I would give Christmas Vacation a 7.5 out of 10.
All right, so Grayson, you kind of kicked off George C. Scott. Brendan, what were your thoughts on the George C. Scott Christmas Carol movie?
I think it was good. Christmas Carol is one of my favorite stories in general, so I enjoy the movie. It's another one that I just hadn't seen before, and so I kind of knew what the story was, so I was able to follow along pretty easily and knew I was going to like it. So
yeah, I mean, A Christmas Carol is probably the most retold, reinterpreted story for Christmas. There's so many different versions. So I think sometimes it does allow some of them to slip through the cracks because you're like, oh, I've already seen it. Why do I need to see it again? And maybe that's why I was with this one. But I thought it was pretty good. And again, just the contrast in Christmas movies, I think is interesting because this one is more of like a ghost story. I mean, it always has been, but this one definitely plays up the darkness of the ghost parts. Some of them are not as spooky or whatever. Some of them, like the Ghost of Christmas Present, I think it was, who like had the two kids as legs or whatever. He was just like, I was like, man, he is like the best villain in this movie. Like, he is crazy. He is like reveling in like making this dude's life. And granted, like Scrooge is supposed to be not a great character. He has all this money and he doesn't even like turn on lights in his house. He like eats like very small meals and like just puts himself in a recluse type of state. George C. Scott, maybe not the person I would have imagined playing Scrooge, but a person that we've talked about on the channel a couple times. You know, he's played Patton. He was in The Changeling. So, you know, anytime I watch him, it's kind of bittersweet in a way because it does remind me of my late Papu, who was going to play his character from A Changeling for us. So, yeah, it's an interesting take, Sam.
So the George C. Scott Christmas Carol is one that I actually saw when I was younger. When I was watching it again, I was just like, oh, I actually do know this movie. I didn't think I did at first because it's been a long time, but it was, I don't know, one of those ones that I thought it was definitely good when I was younger, and it's still pretty decent nowadays. Still kind of holds up and makes it like that, like everyone was saying, kind of like a dark, spooky vibe to what other ones I've seen, like the Muppets one, that is the same thing, but like very lightheartedly out there. So this one is a more darker,
just interpretation.
Yeah, interpretation of it. But it's still really good. I would probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Grayson, what are your rating recommendation for this one?
Yeah, it's definitely not something that you can pop on for just anybody. If you're more into, you know, just that heavier feel, or like you kind of want to get like more of a focus on that, you know, darker element, then this is the movie to definitely do that. But it's not like, you know, you pop that on for everybody during the holidays to have on in the background. But yeah, I'd give it a solid 7.5. I mean, just for me, it was the age of it was definitely showing, but it doesn't really necessarily take away from everything. It was a little distracting, but I mean, I thought it was good enough all the same. So,
Brandon, what about you?
I think it's an 8 out of 10. I think one of the other ones is a little more kid friendly, and you're probably going to show more around family members and stuff. But I do like the little darker side of this one and stuff. So
maybe you need to show this one to make kids not so weak.
I'm pretty sure I saw this one in middle school or high school. Like my teacher showed me this one. So
it was in school.
That's better than what some teachers will show you in school. So sometimes you watch movies and you're like, what the heck? I did have one teacher that showed me Top Gun and then Shattered Glass, and I'm like, this is a cool class. Like, we're watching like Top Gun and Shattered Glass. Like, sweet. Like,
one of mine did the Band of Brothers series.
Nice. Look at that, teachers showing us film.
Yeah, mine showed me Memento in my senior writing on film class. I was back then I was definitely like, whoa, dude, this is so trippy.
Hey, that's a movie we'll have to do a deep dive on it sometime. We should do that one and Darren Aronofsky's Pi. That's kind of a trippy one as well. It's one I really enjoy. Yeah, for me, I would say probably a solid 8. Even though you can definitely tell it's dated and filmed more of practical sets, more in a small. I mean, it looked like practical sets on like a smaller stage. I think it holds up and definitely has a charm. And even being for TV, it has a just depth to the acting that we really don't have anymore, even in some of our big movies. So I think that's kind of something that carries it. And, you know, outside of George C. Scott, I'm not really like none of the actors like popped out to me like, oh, I've seen them in something else. But yeah, it's a darker tale, like I think we've all said, and I think we've lost some of that. Sometimes we lose the dark aspects of some of these old stories and make them lighthearted. So it's always neat to get more of a in line with the original story type of movie. Grayson, next on the list, it looks like Home Alone. I mean, another pretty iconic movie. If for anything, a couple of good one-liners I know people usually bring up. But what are your thoughts with this movie?
Yeah, this was the movie of my childhood. I loved this movie growing up, mostly just because, it was kids, a kid getting the one up on the adults. Always fun. Definitely the formula was way played out by the end of the era for the 90s, but still good all the same. Yeah, no, I love this movie. I still think it's hilarious today. And I'm going to say before anybody else does, both burglars should have been dead after that paint can to the face. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, watching that, there's a lot of fan theories going around that he ends up growing into Jigsaw. So, you could see it. This could, be a fun little origin story for Jigsaw. Brandon, what are your thoughts with Home Alone?
I completely agree with Grayson. It's one of my favorite movies. I watch it every year, maybe twice even. And actually, they do have on YouTube a counter for every time the burglar should be dead or what their injuries are through the first two movies. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, it's one of those good. I enjoy the wreak havoc, that it is, the little tricks he does and stuff. And so it's enjoyable.
Yeah, I will say the only thing that really kind of sticks out to you, or to me at least, was early in the movie, like everyone's really kind of unlikable. Like even he is. But of course, once Pesci and them show up, the Wet Bandits, like man, that movie just rolls, and it's classic. And every time I watch it, I always say I forgot John Candy is in this movie every single time, even though I always say that and I know he's in there. I forget. Sam, what are your thoughts with this one?
I mean, just like everybody, like this has been a really good one. I watched this one probably equal to, or maybe just like one watch more than Elf, which I watched both of those like a lot. So this one was like another big one that was just, I don't know, funny and helped with my creativity on like building some of the random stuff and things that I did when I was a child.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a classic, and especially if you grew up like all of us watching as a kid, you definitely see it from a different viewpoint and have just kind of that, especially when we get into the second one at some point, just being out on your own, enjoying kind of life, and then getting the one up on some bad guys that are trying to break into your house. And I do love how they like leave the water on, or Pesci doesn't want him to do it, but he leaves the water like faucet on, and then at the end they're like, "Hey, so that was you?" So just like a nice little callback, bring it back. So yeah, solid Christmas movie. Obviously, it's a classic for a reason, much like all of these. I'll kick it off. I say a solid 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, Elf's my favorite, but this one is pretty close. It's a good one. It doesn't even need to be Christmas to watch it. It's one of those that you can watch at any time of the year and just enjoy it. Go watch Home Alone 1 and 2 and just completely forget that they made any after those. Just stop it at 2. It's good. Grayson?
Yeah, I'll give it the rating of probably 8 out of 10. Honestly, nostalgia rating, 8.5 out of 10. Really good movie, good for all ages, a good family movie to have on in the background. Yeah, I mean, the fact that as you said, you can watch it any time of the year, but the fact that it does take place during the holidays does make it a little bit more nostalgic, make you kind of feel more into the season when you watch it during this time of the year. But yeah, overall solid movie.
I would say 8.5 out of 10. It's just one of my favorite movies. It's one of those that I make sure that I watch at least once during this season, and sometimes I put it on in the background throughout the year, just for fun.
I would definitely recommend it, and I'll probably put it up there with Elf at 9 out of 10.
And no one mentioned it, so I will just say, everyone watching, just keep your change, you filthy animal, okay? It's a line that, obviously it's a fake movie that's inside this movie, but it's a super iconic line. It's said a couple times throughout here, so just had to bring it up. So I think that brings us to our final movie. We saved it for last because I believe this was our first time for everyone on here watching it for the first time. And that is Love Actually. Grayson, what are your thoughts with this one?
What a movie. Honestly, very good movie. Was interesting to see Andrew Lincoln in a role that wasn't The Walking Dead.
He wasn't Rick.
He wasn't Rick, and he was using his natural British accent. Was definitely a little weird to see, but very, very cute movie, very good movie. Yeah, that's honestly my thoughts on it. It was weird to see the establishment of like the interconnecting holiday story kind of be formulated with this movie, and then it grew up into it being a gigantic, movie plot line industry from like the mid 2000s to the mid 2010s, and then it died off as it should have. But for what it was a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I will say there's some good little one-liners that come up here and there, and just some lines that I really enjoyed. Brendan, what are your thoughts with this one?
I enjoyed it. For my first time watching it, I do like how they kind of connected everyone at the end. As you follow a few different people, they connected them somehow, and so that's kind of cool.
It was interesting. It was good, but I did enjoy it.
Because I wrote some notes, and I said I kept getting distracted every time the one lady's phone rang, because it's the ringtone from Jurassic Park 3, so I thought the Spinosaurus was about to appear in the movie. I did write that down. I do enjoy our little kind of like washed British musician and how he's like, this is shit, isn't it? And then his producers are like, yep, solid cold shit. I don't know why that line. Let's see. Hugh Grant also, maybe just because of the role he was in, but I thought at that age, Hugh Grant would have made a good JFK. Obviously, he doesn't have the... Maybe he can do the accent. Right now, I think Rob Lowe is one of my favorites who did JFK, but something I wrote down. Also, with the amount of actors in here today, no way they could remake this. Yeah, it'd be too expensive a movie. I'm trying to hear. Let's pull up the cast. I mean, you got a ton of people you'll remember. I mean, Keira Knightley's in here, obviously from Pirates of the Caribbean. We brought up Andrew Lincoln, who obviously very well known for his Walking Dead role as Rick. Alan Rickman, who's been in another Christmas classic, Die Hard, makes his appearance here as well. Obviously, I think most people know him as Snape. Trying to think. Mr. Liam Neeson. He had some skills in this movie as well, much like he did in Taken. Colin Firth is another one. He's gotten really big. King's Speech, I think, is what got him in the public eye. Here we got Hugh Grant, Emma Thompson, just a huge, huge cast. So no way you can make it today with those same cast members. Grayson, overall rating recommendation.
Honestly, I'll give this one a 7 out of 10. I mean, it's a bog standard, interconnected love story that we've all seen before, but it's cute, it's seasonal, not really like too offensive in any way. So definitely worth putting on with either a loved one or yeah, it's pretty much what I'm building up to. But yeah, I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10, and yeah.
Yeah, we can say, though not a family movie, Martin Freeman's character, how he meets his love, not child friendly there. So, Brendan, What are your thoughts? Or final thoughts, ratings, recommendations?
I completely agree with everything Grayson said. I'd say 7 out of 10. It's a cute little love story. Good to watch with your other, but probably, stop there.
I mean, Sam, it's got Bilbo Baggins in it. How did you feel? I want them to
Like I said,
remake.
it was interesting.
What
It
if
was
they remade
interesting.
this movie with those actors as the characters we know them as?
Who wants to watch old people fall in love?
Hey, we got de-aging. Well, everyone can be the same age, but like, Andrew Lincoln's Rick. We got Severus Snape in there. We got Bilbo Baggins.
It would be very interesting at that point, but I don't know how I would feel. No,
Right.
I mean, in all seriousness, I would give it a 7 out of 10. And yeah, I mean, check it out. It's interesting but good.
Yeah, I think if we're comparing it to these other films, it's a likable movie. It's an enjoyable one. I don't think we picked any that were too hard to get through or too terrible. So I would say like a 7.5 to maybe 8, depending on like where you are. But it's a fun little movie, and it's a nice little Christmas classic that's a little bit different than all the other ones we've picked. Grayson, overall, how do you feel with the batch of movies? Did we get a good little mix of movies this year?
I mean, yeah, I think we definitely reached to all corners of the possible holiday spectrum when it comes to movies. And I can't wait to see what we do next year. So,
Brendan, what about you? How do you feel?
Yeah, movies that I haven't seen in a while and new ones. So, some funny and some not. It's good.
I thought it was a good little selection. I mean, are up to some of the top tiers of some of the ones we had, and some that are a lot worse. So it was a good little selection. It was a nice, calming one, and not on like very one side of the spectrum. It was kind of like a good average kind of top tier list of movies.
Well, I'll say I think we did pretty good picking the Christmas movies because of the recently Sonic the Hedgehog released their Christmas themed posters, and quite a bit of the ones we picked were parodied in there. Obviously, he did Home Alone. He parodied the Christmas Vacation one. Love Actually is another one that they parodied, as well as Christmas Story, Grinch, Nightmare Before Christmas, Die Hard, because why not? A Bad Santa, and Scrooge, which we kind of touched on Scrooge in a way, just not the Bill Murray version. Yeah, I think we'll be back next year. We'll pick a whole bunch more because, guys, there's a ton of Christmas movies. I think we could do this for the rest of eternity and never run out of ideas. So if you guys have ones that you want us to check out, definitely tell us in the comments below. We will be running a poll so you guys can vote on which one of these is your favorite Christmas movie that we covered. So keep an eye out on the community tab. We do enjoy getting your guys' input. And as always, don't forget to hit that like, give us a subscribe. Click that link to your left. Probably nothing will appear till 2025's Christmas round of movies, but one time you'll watch it. It'll appear there. For our latest stuff here at Culz Paranormal to your right. And yeah, let us know your favorite Christmas movie.